Daddy was so bad to me. Daddy was so mean. Daddy was so tough. Daddy me. And that was quite enough.
That's my daddy.
Okay, welcome back to my channel. So I'm doing a review of The Devil's Chord. That's like episode 2. There were Space Babies. I should have that review out already. So just a little brief. I enjoyed the episode overall. I think there was probably 1 or 2 things I would have done differently. We'll go through everything. So the episode starts and it's like in a school and it's 1920s, right? And there's a teacher, music teacher, and he's teaching a boy how to play the piano. And the boy's like, what you're playing is not really connecting with me. Do you have something a little bit more? And then he starts playing a little musical melody on the piano. And it's like, he said it's called the Devil's Chord, right? And it was banned by the church because it was connected with the devil or something. So he starts playing it. Now, he doesn't know about what this chord does, right? But the chord acts like a key to let a being into our world, into our universe. It's called the Maestro. So he starts playing and the boy's like smiling a little bit evilly. So you think this kid's up to something as well. So he starts playing and then there's like a knocking on the piano door. And it's this person comes out the piano, actually crawls out the piano. It startles the teacher and it's the Maestro. He introduces himself as the Maestro. And well, okay, when they introduce himself, like he said, they, them.
Henry, get away from him. Them. What?
Me.
What?
I'm them.
You're who? You're who?
Right, they, them. Apparently he's non-binary. Yeah, so it's a little bit woke. Right at the start, it's a little bit woke, and he's always mentioning his pronouns. The teacher gets the pronouns wrong, and the Maestro is a little bit angry at him, but whatever. And then it was a little bit confusing because he said he was the they, them, and then the little boy saying, this is my father. Apparently, the Maestro created the boy Henry Harbinger, as a prelude before he comes, as, Harbinger. So, and then he gets rid of the boy, like dissolves him, makes him disappear. But it's funny because he's calling him his dad, so it's a bit, confusing, little gender confusion. So the Maestro calls the teacher the greatest composer of all time. That's a big, that's a lot, right? So he's saying that to the teacher, and I'm thinking to myself, who is this teacher? I mean, he's the greatest musical composer of all time. Apparently he never reached his potential. He never became that, but all the songs were inside his heart. And then the Maestro asks him, do you want me to release all the songs? And he says yes, but he didn't realize what that means. Apparently so the Maestro is the daughter of the toy maker. He's Legion, the Pantheon, right? He's an evil guy, right? He's an evil being. All right, he's part of the Legion. So he releases the music he's a god of music, but we'll get into it. So he releases the music from the teacher and he eats it, right? He pulls the music out of his heart and eats the music. Apparently he lives on music or survives on music. So the Maestro is a drag queen, right? He's in fully drag. He's non-binary, finery. He's all finery. I still like the character. I thought he was a good villain overall. Okay, I was into it. I know the reason he's in drag. I'll get into that. But he's a god of music. But I don't know. Originally, I thought when I was watching the episode, I thought he might hate music. Right, because he's stopping music. Well, he's stopping music from happening, right? So I thought maybe he hated music or hated the joy that music brings people, and that's why he was stopping music. But what I thought was really cool is after he kills Timothy, the music teacher, he starts playing the piano and he goes bum bum.
Now.
No, he actually breaks the third wall. So he actually looks at the camera at us, right? And then he starts playing the piano and boom, 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 boom. And this is the Doctor Who theme, right? He's just playing it on the one note on the piano, and then it goes into the actual Doctor Who theme, right? But the Doctor Who theme is a little bit different to connect up with the piano note. So, and then eventually it goes into the proper Doctor Who theme. So I thought it was really nice that they customized the theme song for that actual sequence. Probably next week's gonna be different, but it was really nice. Really cool. So Ruby asks the Doctor to see the Beatles. She wants to see the Beatles when they first record their first album, and he thinks it's an amazing idea, and so they go. But when they go to see the Beatles actually perform their first album, it's really odd. And the song they sing is like really like about a dog and loving a dog. It's really boring and logical. It has no emotion. And they think that's really off. There's something not quite right. So they go see Cilla Black perform, right? So where they go is actually the studio where the Beatles wrote a lot of their songs, and a lot of the a lot of other singers perform their songs, famous singers perform their songs. So they go to Cilla Black, and Cilla Black says she's off too.
And 3, 2, 1.
I love you, you love me, we are two, we are not three, 'cause you love me and I love you, are quite happy, I think, perhaps.
Oh, Cilla.
She's not singing her proper song. She's singing something about being in love, 2, 3, and it didn't work. So what they decide is to talk to Paul and John Lennon in the cafeteria. So they're talking to them and just asking them questions about what happened to music. It seems music has gone from the world, right? Everybody knows music existed, but they don't seem to like it. They kind of hate music as well. And any music they do sing is kind of soulless and lifeless and very logical. So they were like, music has been taken away from the world. Right, so they asked Paul, the Doctor's talking to Paul and asked him, when did music go away from the world? He said somewhere in the 1920s. Yeah, 1920s was when the Maestro came into the world. So from 1920, from the 1960s, the Beatles time, it was about like 40 years something where there's no music in the world. So that's the only problem I didn't like, is if you think about it, there was 40 years where there was no music in the world. It seemed kind of odd. I would rather have the Maestro come into the world at the same time as the Beatles, then it would make sense. Because how can you have 40 years without music? It was just being odd. Even the Doctor would realize there was something going on. No, would be odd, because I don't think you can undo that 40 years of there not being any music. But let's not think about too many of the little details. Okay, let's forget about it. So Ruby's actually talking to John Lennon, and he goes on about how he doesn't like music. He just wants to go back home to where he lives and live normal family life with his wife and settle down. But and then Doctor's talking to John Lennon, and he's saying it's how it should be, right? Music is just nonsense, and this is how it should be. I'm just gonna get this done and go back home as well. I'm gonna stop doing music. But then he said, don't you remember music? I mean, in your heart, in the back of your mind, there must be some notes of music. And he was like, yeah, at night, maybe when I'm dreaming, I hear notes. There's like a 1 and a 2 and a this and a that. And then he starts putting the song together in his mind, and he puts words to the song, and he starts almost singing the words. Like the first words he says is, I love you. And then once he starts singing, everybody in the cafeteria turns around, looks at him like they've heard something they've missed, right? Something they've missed all this time. So they start reacting to it. And when that happens, this being comes into the cafeteria. It's hiding in the reflection of things like the spoon, the teapot. It's like even in the reflection of John Lennon's glasses, it's the Maestro, right? And it all happens in like 2 seconds, 3 seconds as the spoon drops onto the floor. Even I think he's even in the reflection of a spoon. The Doctor notices all this, even there's a second, and it's like Paul was trying to break out of it, but this being wouldn't let it, right? So even though there was a tiny bit of music, it stole that music away, right? So the Doctor doesn't know about Maestro if they've come in, the daughter of the toy maker. They don't know about any of that yet. So they decide after this. Actually, Paul has a bad reaction. He starts, it's like, oh, this is disgusting. He starts hating music even more. But then the Doctor realized they need to investigate further. And so he takes Ruby and takes a piano and gets it to the roof of the studio. Well, so before all that happens, they have this nice moment on the roof, and the Doctor's just talking to Ruby, and he says, look over there, that's where I am, right? In 1963, that's where I am with my granddaughter, Susan. And she's like, oh, you've got a granddaughter. And he's like, I used to have a granddaughter, but I don't know what's happened to her. She's probably dead, right? He said, then he's like, what happened? And he's trying to explain that, what was his actual words? A genocide rolled across the universe, right? So I was thinking, when he said genocide rolls across the universe, he didn't say time war, the Daleks and the Time Lords. He never said that. So was he referring to the Time Lords, or was he referring to when the Master in Jodie Whittaker's run killed all the Time Lords and turned them into Cybermen? But I don't know if he was referring to that all the time. That's where he didn't use exact words. So I'm thinking, what was he referring to? That's the only thing that I thought was out there. But he must be referring to the Time War. Okay, so they on the roof. And they put on the plan is to Ruby to play the piano, because she's part of the band. Even the Christmas episode, you see she's part of the band. And the idea is she plays the piano, brings music back into the world, and we see what happens. We'll see. It's a little test. So he has to play any song, and she says she'll play a song that she wrote herself for her friend Trudy, who's part of the band. Now, if you watch Christmas episode, Trudy was the trans woman in the Christmas episode, and apparently she's a lesbian, and the song was written to help her get over a breakup that she had. Like, but her girlfriend dumped her. So I was thinking, there's a bit of woke thing there again, slipping in the little woke stuff. And I think it was a long way of going into a heterosexual relationship. Yeah, you're transsexual, and then you're dating a woman, but whatever. So she starts playing this beautiful song, and I liked it, and it's like breaking up, and it's not just a normal piano piece, it's just like, feels like keys are missing, and she's going for it. And when that happens, she starts playing it. I think that's connected to the Maestro, because later on, in like 2 minutes, when she just plays it, the Maestro does come, but later in the episode, right, just a minute later, they said, the Maestro says, I was brought here by the chorus of ancient songs, right? And he says that after hearing Ruby play the piano. So I was thinking, oh, wow, is Ruby a Time Lord, right? Why is she playing this ancient song? This song she was playing is not a normal song, right? Maybe she's a Time Lord who's forgotten she's a Time Lord, and that song is somewhere in the back of her mind, right? Well, you'll see later on when I go into my review, right? Maybe she is a Time Lord, and in the Space Babies, when he was scanning her DNA, right? Maybe he's checking if she was 100% human, not a Time Lord, right? Because that's a weird way of the Maestro saying, I was born here by the ancient songs when she's playing. Okay, that's what. Yeah, so the song, I feel like it connects to the mystery of who she is and who her mother is, right? So the Maestro pops his head out the piano, and they're like just half out, and they start doing the giggle, right? From the toy maker, that
You called.
or something like that. So instantly the Doctor hears this. He knows that this being is connected to the toy maker, and so they start running. He starts running because he's scared, right? So the moment he hears it, he knows this being is connected to the toy maker. He doesn't know how, and he starts running. Maybe he thinks it was actual toy maker, but well, he just starts running. And you know, when I was thinking about it, is Ruby was left as a baby, right? And she might be a Time Lord, and that might start thinking me of the Master, right? Though there was an episode where the Master makes himself into a baby, like a human baby, using the chameleon arch, right? He changes his whole biology to become human, and puts his memory in a fob watch, right? I think his name was Yana. You're not alone. And I was thinking maybe that's what happened to Ruby. Maybe there's a fob watch somewhere with all her memories, and she's used the chameleon circuit to change her. Or maybe she is the daughter of Time Lord. But I definitely think she is connected to a Time Lord, right? So that's one of the things. So the Master turned itself into a baby and went to the end of time to get away from the Time Wars. So I'm thinking something like that. Because, you know, there's a lot of times in the story where there's beats from, like, member berries, right? Like little memories from past seasons from this season.
I was a naked child found on the coast of the Silver Devastation, abandoned with only this.
Martha, this watch is me. I'm going to become human.
So the Doctor and Ruby are hiding from this being, the Maestro, right? And he uses like the sonic to stop all sound, and the Maestro uses a pitchfork to overpower their device. They're hiding. Eventually, the Maestro hears somebody else playing a piano. This little old lady starts playing the piano. I think she was inspired after hearing Ruby. She starts playing her own piano. And then once he hears it, he goes down to her house, comes out her piano, and murders her, kills her dead, right? And he like a little cheeky wink before he does it. And then in that time, that gives the opportunity for Ruby and the Doctor to escape. And he's just talking to Ruby about how he's scared and how his soul got split in half when, he's playing that catch game and he nearly destroyed him, and how these beings are gods, they're beyond anything he knows. When I was thinking about this, these gods might be linked to the Doctor, right? Maybe the gods explain everything about who the Doctor is, right? The timeless child. Maybe the timeless child and these gods and the Doctor are all linked. Maybe at the end this will all come around to explain everything. I'm not saying the Doctor is a god or anything, but there might be a connection to explain how he was the timeless child. So Ruby doesn't believe that the world will end, and because he still exists and she knows the future happened. So even if the Maestro, it couldn't be possible the Maestro destroys the past and kills everybody. So the Doctor tries to prove to her. So it was a nice moment. He actually brought her back into the present to show her what the future is like.
This is what we're trying to stop.
But this isn't real. This is... It's just like a parallel universe.
This is your time. This is your home if Maestro isn't stopped.
Where's one more?
If the Maestro, because she doesn't believe, she goes out and she sees London's been destroyed, Planet's been destroyed in nuclear war. Everyone, Doctor explained it as that because people couldn't express themselves, they just turned on each other. Everybody soured and they all turned on each other and killed each other. And while they're in the future, the actual Maestro, the Maestro's been there for years. He's just been waiting around on the empty planet. Everyone's dead and he's just been chilling there. And he senses them on the planet and comes, talks to them. And the Maestro, unlike the toy maker, can't travel through time. So he just waited from the 60s to the 2024 by himself on the planet alone. So he talks to them. He explains he is the daughter of the toy maker. He said, Daddy didn't love me.
Yes,
Child of the toy maker.
c'est moi, mon cher. I should thank you, Doctor. Daddy was so bad to me. Daddy was so mean, Daddy was so tough, Daddy me, and that was quite enough.
That's my daddy.
And he's singing this song, and eventually the doctor says to him, your father was the god of fair games, right? He never cheated in games, and you need to tell me more information about how you came into the world. She explains that there's a bunch of chords that can bring me into the universe. And then he assumed to think that maybe there's a bunch of chords that can banish you away again, like, you know, how they did to the toy maker. And so, yeah, they start running because, you know, apparently the Maestro can control atoms, right? Not atoms, but because atoms vibrate, and anything that vibrates is sound, and he controls sound. So he starts messing with the TARDIS. They escape, and the only place they can go back is back to the Beatles, 1960 something. So they go back in time. And also, one more thing, you know, I think all the Doctor Who's had this is the Doctor Who catchphrase. I think all the past Doctor Who's, well, some of the past ones had, David Tennant, Matt Smith, they had a little catchphrase, right? I think the catchphrase for this Doctor, the Ncuti Gatwa Doctor, will be Hadi Ama. That's what he said. He just said it. Well, when they came back to the 60s, he said Hadi Ama. I looked it up. It's Turkish, and it means come on. So that's his new thing, catchphrase. I've forgotten the other catchphrases that the Doctor's had, so if you want to remind me of that. So they go back to the studio. So the Doctor's plan is to find out the notes to banish this being. So he's just gone to the studio, gonna just figure it all out with helpers Ruby. While he's there, the Maestro from the 90s, not from the future one, from the 60s, not 90s, 60s, comes in and he grabs Ruby and takes her away. And the Doctor comes in and follows, right? You know, one thing I noticed is the Doctor was using his sonic screwdriver, and normally his sonic screwdriver is gold and blue and turquoise. It turned pink. It turned like a pink, dark reddish kind of color. Yeah, I don't know why it turned like that, right? I thought it was unusual. They didn't explain why it changed color. It was odd, right? But maybe there's a reason I missed. Let me know. So the Maestro has grabbed her and he's holding her up in the air with the musical notes, right? And he explains it as this: she's the last human on the planet with music in her heart, and he wants that music, right? He said it's delicious. So from the Maestro, he is a being, a god of music, right? An evil being. He's twisted, and he wants the music from Ruby because it's delicious. He craves it, right? But it's just not the music. Apparently he feeds off the potential of music. Like, if there's some music that could never be sung, he would feed off the potential of that music. Like he was explaining to them in 2024, when he was only being live, that when he took away all the music from the world, because there's nobody who could write any music, he fed off the potential, and he would become more powerful, and that he could spread his power through all the stars in the universe and just take away music and destroy their worlds. Because his plan was to hopefully destroy all the planets, have nuclear winter, and just be the last being in the universe. That was their plan, right? So it's not just joy. He loves taking away music. He lives off the potential of music that makes him more powerful, that he could snuff it off. And yeah, you really have to think about the way the power works. So he's got Ruby suspended in the air, and he's trying to find the hidden music. Apparently the music is the Christmas Carol. This is where he says something like he realized that Ruby has a lot of power in her, some kind of musical power, and it's related to the old one.
How could a song have so much power? And power like him? Like who? The oldest one? On the night of her birth. He can't have been there. What for? Who was there? Enough.
The oldest one, and she's like, and the Maestro's like, how could the oldest one be connected to Ruby? How could he be on the date she was born? He must. So there's a being called the oldest one. I think the oldest one must be the one who waits, right? So that being was at the day when Ruby was born. This is what the Maestro says. That's another mystery. And I think the oldest one's like the most powerful god out of all of them. Like from Legion, the Pantheon. He's like from the toy makers, he's the most powerful being, right? And he has the one who waits had some connection with Ruby. Also, I was going to say there's a lot of musical themes in this episode, and I think music's going to be playing a lot of big. There might be a lot more music coming on. I think there's a connection with music, with Ruby, with the ancient music. And I noticed, like somebody on Twitter, and this is a spoiler, well, not kind of spoiler, you know, the costume the Maestro wearing was a lot similar to what the toy maker was wearing when he did the Spice Girls, you know, the red one. Just his one was blue, the toy maker's was red, right? And there's a connection with the Beatles with these uniforms, right? The uniforms look like the Nutcracker or like a band camp player or something, like a soldier. And there's this album called this Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club. And that's an album from the Beatles. And on that album, they're wearing costumes similar to what the toy maker and the Maestro were wearing. And so I'm just thinking there's 4 of them, all of the legions, will all members of the Pantheon, the Legion, wear those costumes. And are all of them somehow connected to music somehow? That's interesting. So the Maestro, after seeing how much power is locked away in Ruby, decides to drop her and leave her alone. And then he starts a musical not rap battle, like a musical face-off with the Doctor. And they start playing the piano. He's playing the fiddling away, and then Ruby helps the Doctor, and the Doctor and Ruby are playing the piano, and they're fighting, and they win, right? They beat the Maestro, but that's not enough because you still need to know the banishing chords to put the Maestro away. After he wins the music battle face-off, the Doctor's he starts playing. He says to them, I've lived a long life. I know if that's where music is, I've loved and lost and everything. And if that's where music has come, I should be able to find these chords. So he starts playing the chords. He starts finding the notes. I think there's 5 notes that he needs to play on the piano. And he goes 1, 2, 3. He plays all the notes except for the last one. And you can see it's having an effect on the Maestro. It's like they've been affected. The Maestro's laughing their heads off, like the giggle, right? They're giggling, they're laughing, but they are going to get banished. Then the last note is a bum note. He plays it wrong, and the Maestro's laughing like he's won, and he traps the Doctor in like a drum, and then he traps Ruby in a cello instrument. And then, but as that happening, the piano gets moved out into the hallway, and so the Maestro's just celebrating, but as that's moved out, John Lennon and Paul come to the piano and they see the notes. And I think because Paul was dreaming about the notes, and they must both be dreaming about the notes, so it must remembered something in them, because they start playing the chords and they play the final note that banishes the being. So the being gets banished back to hell or wherever the toy maker, they're gone. So everything looks lost, but Paul and John Lennon saved the day. Happy days. So there was a song at the end, right? All is a twist, there's always a twist at the end.
There's always a twist, there's always a twist, there's always a twist at the end. There's always a twist, there's always a twist, there's always a twist at the end.
So the first time I heard it, I thought the first few lines was a bit repetitive. Always a twist, there's all, oh my God. I didn't like that bit, but the rest of the song was fine. I understand why this song happened. It was like in the way Toymaker had his energy, the Maestro might have had his energy, and everybody who's been 40 years no music, they probably it just all came out of them, and they're doing this musical number. It's fine. I enjoyed it. Except for that always a twist, it was kind of repetitive and annoying. So happy days. What did I think of the performance? Doctor Who, his performance was fine. I liked his performance fine. Ruby was great. And the villain was amazing. I know they were drag. Yeah, I know it's woke. The pronouns, that was woke. Them mentioning their trans friend, probably woke. them being a drag queen. I was okay with them being a drag queen, but I understand it's just them trying to push some kind of agenda. But it was good and it worked, and yeah, as long as it works within the story, I thought it worked really well, and they're really good villain. They really hammed it off. They did really good acting. They did a good job. I would like to see them again. I don't know if all the Pantheon gods, legions are all going to come back. There seems to be a connection with music. There seems like the Ruby might be a Time Lord. I would like to see... I don't know if they're going to find out what happened to Susan, his granddaughter. I would like to see that. So it ends on a happy note. They're all away. I mean, the last thing Maestro says, as you know, the Maestro gets banished and they're being pulled into the piano and gone forever. The last thing they say is the one who waits is coming. So the oldest one, I think the oldest one and the one who waits probably the same person. Otherwise, there's two beings who are very powerful. The one who waits and the oldest one. But I'm sure they're the same person. Yeah, I liked it. Little bit of wokeness, whatever. It was a very good episode. I think, I feel like it was an 8 or 9. I would have had this as the first episode. Space Babies wasn't that good. Yeah, I'm keen on seeing more. Very good. Okay, like this video, share the video, comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this episode, good, bad, whatever your ideas, we'll discuss it in the comment section. And use my links to support my channel. Thank you very much. Take care. Love you. Tune in for next week for my review about the next episode. Oh yeah, the next episode called Broom. I'll probably talk about the trailer. Didn't want it, but we'll just get through Doctor Who content. Take care. Bye. Love you. Bye.